Hello, lovebirds. I truly hope that now you can finally hear me. Please do a thumbs up if we can hear me. Score. Okay, something was bad with my microphone. So hello everyone, welcome to my live stream. It seems like that every time I want to go live, something goes wrong. Doesn't matter what it is, something just seems to go wrong. But hello, it's live. So in today's live stream, we are going to talk about makeup education, what I have done, what the costs were, if I think it was worth it, if you can do it on your own, or anything makeup education wise. So I think it's probably best if I start off with telling you guys how I started off and which education or programs I did to get my career started. So let's start with that. So in 2014, I graduated with a bachelor degree in communications, which, you know, seems like every girl my age seemed to do that, and it seemed proper enough to satisfy the parents. So we made a little bit of a bargain that if I would bring home a bachelor degree, that they would pay for my makeup education, which was going to be with House of Orange Makeup School in Amsterdam. So 3 days after my graduation, I started with House of Orange Makeup School, and in my opinion, it was the best decision I have ever made because I started on a completely different path. So let's first explain to you guys how makeup education in Holland, I think it differs quite a bit from the makeup education abroad in the US or in the UK, where you have like 3-year degrees and everything. For me, it was quite different. So in Holland, we've got a makeup program that is 16 weeks, where you go to school 1 day a week on a Sunday. I think I picked Sunday. You could choose Monday or Sunday. And you go to school for the entire day, and then you get a shit ton of homework for the rest of the week. So in my opinion, it was a full-time course for 16 weeks, but it's not the same as in the US, for example, where you go to cosmetology school, and there you have, you know, like a 1.5 or 3-year program where you go to school full-time. It's completely different. Hi Paul, leuk dat je er bent. So, if you have any questions throughout this live stream, please ask them, because I would love every live stream to be a little bit more of a conversation instead of a one-way street. You know, I wish I could hear everyone talking back and everything, but it's kind of impossible. So let me see. There's a first question, I think. I've been learning so much from you. Oh, that's not a question. Ah, Sarah, that makes me really, really happy. Every time someone says they're wearing less foundation than they used to, that makes me incredibly happy, which kind of brings me to my first day of school. Okay, this was amazing. I was 24 years old, and obviously I'd been on Instagram for a little bit already, and I had taught myself to do Instagram makeup, which a lot of us do because that is kind of the only thing we see on social media, so it kind of gets ingrained into our system, and then that's what we think makeup should look like. But that was not my goal with makeup. I wanted to be a makeup artist for editorial jobs. So I walk into my first class, my first day of school, and I was so excited. So obviously I had primed and prepped and done my makeup so that I could look as gorgeous as I could when walking into my first day of school. Wrong choice. Absolutely wrong choice, because I had the carved out eyebrows, I had a thick full foundation layer on with contour and shaping and everything you could imagine with a full glam look. So I walk into school, and you know, the teacher looks at me and he's like, take it off. And these were the days where I was still quite a bit insecure about the way I looked. So I was quite embarrassed and quite nervous to be taking my makeup off, and in the end it turned out to be the best thing that he could have done, because I had to start from scratch, and by making it so visual and so, you know, you could feel it in your system, I'm making a new start and a fresh start. So I took off my makeup and I started fresh from that day. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is whatever you have learned online so far, stop doing it, because it's not the way to go if you want to do fashion makeup. So yeah, that was the first day of school. That was horrible, but amazing. Are you watching Drag Race Holland? Of course I am. So one fun little fact is that Miss Envy Peru did a guest course with my masterclass, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But she taught me how to do drag makeup for one day, and I'm gonna have to admit I wasn't very good at it. And then Mama Queen, who is called Dennis in real life, he used to live with my sister-in-law and they went to school together to study design. So he's an actual designer and a costume designer. She. In this case, we say she. So yes, of course, I'm watching Drag Race Holland. Do you know if makeup school in Holland or in the Netherlands is the same as in Germany? Well, there is a big difference between the German market and the Dutch market. So the German market is a little bit more commercial, whilst the Dutch market has a little bit more variety. So I think if you go to school in Germany, they'll probably focus more on the commercial part of things, because there's a lot of commercial jobs in Germany, like Zalando or Weekamp or that kind of stuff. So I think it depends, because I don't actually know any schools in Germany. So I think if you want to go to school, I would do a little bit more research on what that school is actually teaching before you go there. Okay, let me see. I always say less is more, rather build up than pack on too much in the first place. That is absolutely true. Could you give a tip for eyeshadow and deep set eyes? Well, that is a whole nother story in itself. And I think we'll need to do like a live session on deep set eyes where I could actually show you kind of some tips and tricks and everything. When you say fashion makeup, you're also talking about daily makeup that is more wearable. Well, the school I went to, House of Orange Makeup School, is completely focused on how to do makeup for commercial jobs, because there are companies like Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger based in the Netherlands, and they do all of their shoots there. So one, how to do like really nice editorial but commercial makeup for commercial shoots. And then there's a very big creative aspect to this makeup course. So I think for a lot of makeup schools abroad and everywhere else, it is a full-on wide spectrum makeup school where you learn from bridal to celebrity to fashion to special effects and everything that is somewhere in between there. What House of Orange Makeup School specifically teaches you how to think creatively and think outside of the box to create editorial makeup. So from day one, we were completely ingrained and submerged into what is fashion makeup. How should the base look? How should you start thinking differently? Because it is a different type of makeup than commercial makeup or bridal or glam or whatever. And for me personally, it was my absolute focus to do editorial work for magazines and for larger brands. So for me, it was a perfect way to start my education. But it had kind of it had a good stable base where you would be taught how to do a full base, how to do an editorial base with just face and body foundation, for example, how to do contouring, how to do brows in an editorial way. And we would start with 200%, so it was all way too much, but then it had to be technically correct. And from there on out, we would start to kind of build down what we were doing with that makeup. Do you remember your favorite day in school? Why was it your favorite day? So there was this one day in makeup school where we had a guest lesson from one of Holland's best artists, who is called Eva Kopper with a C. So Kopper. And she is just incredible at adding just a hint and a touch of makeup and creating something that is beyond gorgeous. And she taught us how to do brow hair strokes with aqua color. She taught us how to do a really nice makeup with face and body foundation. And I think right at that moment, something clicked for me where I was like, holy shit, this is it. It doesn't have to be a specific line from A to Z. You can go from A to K to Z and leave out all of the rest and still get an amazing picture in the end. And I think at that moment, it really clicked for me is that what you want to do with makeup is your own choice, and you don't need to follow all of the prescribed steps to get somewhere. And she's just incredibly creative, and I was so excited to see her working on a face. So yeah. When did you decide that you wanted to be an editorial makeup artist? I think that started quite a bit early. So I was 18, I graduated from high school, and then I had decided that I wanted to study photography at art school. So I applied, I got accepted, and I studied there at Willem de Koning Academy in Rotterdam for 6 months. However, in those 6 months, I kind of hit a wall. I didn't know what I was doing on a technical aspect. I didn't know how to connect the lamps to my camera, for example. And it was probably because I was one of the few people that didn't really have a background in photography before attending the school. And obviously they're going to focus on the people who are more advanced, and the other people, they'll just have to catch up. So I would go into the studio with one of my friends at school, Nadine, and I kind of noticed that I like doing makeup for the shoots better than shooting it itself. And that kind of got me thinking, and after 6 months I decided to quit art school, and I told my parents, Mom, Dad, I want to be a makeup artist. It's so logical. Why haven't I thought earlier about this? But I'm going to go to makeup school. And sorry, I'm looking at the chat box and someone's asking, are you a lesbian? No, I'm not. I have a boyfriend and we've been together for almost 13 years now. But I am bald, so that kind of confuses people sometimes. But again, I told my parents I wanted to go to makeup school, and they were like, yeah, that's all nice, but no, you're gonna have to use your brains first before you're gonna do something creative. And I'll be forever grateful for them for telling me to do something with my brains first before doing something creative, because I think if I would have attended school at 19, I would have bawled my eyes out. And I would have cried and walked out of class because I wasn't able to handle it emotionally yet. So I'm very grateful that it was 4 or 5 years later before I actually started attending makeup school. So yeah. Let me see. There's a lot of question. In editorial makeup, I rarely see any contact lenses used. Is there a specific reason for not using contact lenses, or is it preferable to be at natural at doing an editorial makeup? So, I think this kind of falls into the category Instagram makeup, because never have I ever applied a different color contact lens to a model besides doing those creepy wide lenses for an editorial for Numero magazine. If you want a girl with blue eyes, you book a girl with blue eyes. And I don't think I've ever encountered a beauty editorial or a fashion editorial where they were like, we don't like her color eyes, we're going to do something different. And you can always see it. No matter what you do, you can always see contact lenses. What was your first editorial makeup? Well, that was graduating from makeup school, because you had an end shoot with a really good photographer so that you could start building your portfolio. And I think after that, it was mainly Cosmopolitan that booked me in Holland. And there was this lovely woman, Anne Keizer Faber, who now works for Redken, for a haircare brand with L'Oreal. But she gave me an opportunity and a chance to work for one of Holland's magazines, and I'll be forever grateful for that. If I look back at it now, I'm teeny tiny bit like, that could have gone way better. And that is probably also because I was signed to the agency right after makeup school. And on the one hand, that was something that was incredible for House of Orange to give me such a humongous opportunity to be signed with a really large agency in Holland. And on the other hand, I was kind of struggling because I lacked the experience that I needed to be able to rock those shoots. And obviously, experience comes with years. But I think it would have been a bit better if I would have done 6 more months of test shoots at least, and then I would have started, because I think I made a few mistakes here and there, or some things where I now feel like you could have done better. But yeah, I think we all look at our work in that way. Even if you've done it last week, you're like, I could have done that better, and that could have been nicer. And I think as a creative, you'll always be in that kind of mind space where you're like, did I do enough? Can I do more? Can I do better? Can I grow a bit more? How can I improve myself? I think it's a never-ending story. Let me see. No, exactly. Maggie also says, I have never ever seen or applied makeup on a model with different lenses. Was starting out hard? I'll be the first one to admit I'm the luckiest bastard alive, because one, I did my makeup course, and I was this horrible girl who would bring extra pieces of homework to class each and every week, to prove how dedicated I was and how much I wanted it. But it worked out in my favor in the end, because I practiced so much that each and every week I had something new to show my teachers, and I could, I felt like I could get a step ahead each and every time. Not in the way where you're like, I'm gonna, knock over all of my classmates, but more in the form like, I want to grow, and I want to grow now because I don't have the time to play around. And that worked out majorly in my favor, where I was signed to the agency. I graduated in June of 2014, and then I got signed to the agency in December. So I'm one of the luckiest bastards alive. But I'll be honest in telling you that I also was visible on Instagram during that time. And fashion industry and Instagram don't always work together well, and they don't always appreciate each other very well. So in the beginning, it was kind of hard to fight the stigma that comes with social media, where you're like, I want to be a serious and respected makeup artist, but some people saw me as a child playing with makeup online. And obviously, most of the beauty gurus that we see online don't have formal makeup education. They are self-taught, and there is kind of a stigma within the editorial industry that if you're on YouTube or Instagram or whatever, now it's changing though, but if you are on social media, back then it was kind of hard to fight the stigma that I couldn't be a serious makeup artist because I was on Instagram. And now I feel like, especially during this whole pandemic crisis, is that more and more editorial makeup artists are creating content online, which is incredible because we want to see the professionals online as well. So I think now there's a shift where we can see more and more people that are working editorial makeup artists explain all of their knowledge online. And I applaud that because we need that more, in my opinion. Yes, you'll be able to watch it later. I'll save it on here and I'll make sure that you can rewatch it. So don't worry. Also, the chat box will be stored in here as well, so you don't have to put the live chat box on anywhere. Okay, let's go on to another. Can you share pictures and videos of your clients more? I'd really like to see how you apply your makeup on different faces, different eye shapes and skin tones. Love your work and wish you the best. Well, I'm very sorry, but especially after I broke my wrist, I just uploaded a little IGTV on my Instagram on how I broke my wrist about 2.5 years ago, and how that really changed my career, because after I broke my wrist, I broke it in 3 places in Paris, and I was unable to work for around 8 months. So 8 months of recovery is detrimental to a makeup artist who normally goes to set each and every day. So in my brain, I thought like, okay, there's nothing else I can do but social media at this moment. And up to that time, I had refused to do any paid collaborations because, again, there is this little inner fight going on between me on social media and me as an editorial makeup artist. So I kept fighting with myself on what to do. And then when I broke my wrist, there was no other choice but to open the door to make a job out of social media. And so I did. And I am beyond fortunate that this is working out for me, because I thought my career was over when I broke my wrist. And then it turned out that I had been missing out on the social media aspect of makeup. And nowadays, this is my full-time job. I create content online and I try to keep it super, super, super educational. Always have a link to Editorial makeup artist, and once in a blue moon, when there's a really exciting project or someone who doesn't have that stigma of Instagram and YouTube in their mind, they'll give me an opportunity. For example, I did the couture show for Ronald van der Kemp, who is a couturier here in Holland, and he creates demi-couture, which means that he creates new couture pieces, but out of used fabric or leftovers, or he remakes an old garment into something new. And he's incredibly successful because Katy Perry wears his stuff, Celine Dion wears his stuff, Lady Gaga, I've seen her in Ronald van der Kemp as well. So those are the opportunities that I'm really excited to be able to work on, those kind of projects. But it doesn't happen as much anymore as it used to before I broke my wrist. So yeah. I think the universe kind of pushed me into this direction, and when I broke my wrist, I didn't have another choice but to stop fighting it. So yeah. With the hindsight, will you go through the same editorial makeup schooling, or could someone be self-taught to get to your level of expertise? Well, as I mentioned before in the beginning of this live stream, if it wasn't for my teacher telling me, you know, like, stop what you're doing and stop it now because something is going horribly wrong and you're teaching yourself the wrong things, I don't think I would have been able to swirl it around into something more editorial. So obviously there's so much content here on YouTube and on Instagram where you can actually learn a lot of techniques, but to develop your sense of style, to develop your sense, I don't know how to call it, it's, you know, sometimes Instagram makeup can be a bit tacky. So there's a taste level that you have to develop. And that taste level takes a while to feed. Because whatever you feed your brain, you're going to absorb that and create things from that database that you've created in your head. So if you're only looking at social media platforms and social media content where somebody does quite a bit of a glammy kind of makeup, then it's quite difficult to take that database of imagery and knowledge into an editorial shoot and create beautiful skin and something creative on the eyes or the lips or whatever. So it is very important that even if you're technically right and technically good at doing makeup, that you feed your brain the right information and the right imagery to be able to develop that taste level. And I do feel that going to House of Orange Makeup School, that in those 16 weeks, I started somewhere here and I made a 360 to end up here, to start thinking differently, to start looking at imagery differently. So I stopped looking at social media. I still posted every day, but I stopped looking at the content on social media and I started feeding my brain with pictures I found on Pinterest. For example, if you want to do a blue smoky eye, put in blue smoky eye, but then put editorial behind it. And then you'll probably start seeing more and more imagery that is meant for the magazines and that is meant for the fashion industry versus the blue smoky eyes that we see on social media. And then start looking at the magazines that you would really want to work with, like a Vogue, a Numero, Dazed Beauty, start looking at the fucked up makeups as well, because take Isamaya French, for example. She's one of the few artists that finally walks the line between being uncomfortable on the one hand with the makeups that she creates, and on the one hand being completely in awe of what she does. There is a fine line between, she's doing an incredible balancing act between the ugly and the beautiful. And that is also something that you will never ever see on social media either. For example, start following the artists that you really admire. So if you're looking at the editorials in a Vogue magazine, for example, then in the fine lettering, probably somewhere in the crease, there is the text of who worked on that editorial. Start following those people and start feeding your brain those kind of imagery and those kind of styles. Because if you're just going to follow the major beauty gurus on social media, you'll never be able to do something in editorial. Because you're feeding your brain the wrong thing. So for example, you can learn really well how to do a full cover foundation base on social media, because let's be honest, the application 9 times out of 10 is absolutely impeccable. But if you want to do editorial, you're going to have to feed your brain different things, because otherwise your taste level will not develop. I hope this makes sense. So yes, definitely I would again do House of Orange makeup school, because especially in developing that taste level and developing certain techniques that I didn't have before, I couldn't have missed. Absolutely not. Oh, thank you, Sarah. She's saying I'm more than educational. Which makeup products do you feel is better to invest in? For example, spending a little bit more in foundation and less in lipstick, etc. Okay, so nowadays, back when I was starting, it was a bit more difficult to get brands like Morphe, for example, or to get brands from abroad. Nowadays, it's much easier to get really nice, inexpensive eyeshadow colors that are beyond pigmented, because we hadn't seen that before. You can get paints everywhere, you can get so many color things, but cheap foundation, never a go. You can, there are beautiful products out there, but if you want to create beautiful foundation base, if you want to do like really nice spot concealed skin, then you're going to have to invest in great concealer. So for me, my absolute recommendations to start with is Face and Body Foundation by MAC, because it's buildable, it's really nice and translucent. You can build it up to be more covering as you go along. And then a great cream concealer palette like the Bobbi Brown one, or for example, Kryolan Dermacolor. Those are the two things that I would definitely invest in to make sure that you always have the right basics on set. And it is so important to spend a bit more on the foundation part of things, because you want to make sure that you've got every single color imaginable in your kit. There can never be a moment where you have a black model on set and you don't have her shade. It's impossible. You spend a bit more on the foundation part of things, and then there are so many incredible high pigmented palettes that you can work with. Certify, for example, they have incredible palettes. I think they're maybe 25 euros or pounds. I don't even remember that well, but they're very inexpensive, and they have color stories. So you've got a palette full of blues, and then you've got a palette full of oranges and pinks and reds, and they're very inexpensive. So please go for the foundation and the concealer and a nice setting powder to be able to get that base done impeccably each and every time, because that's probably how you'll recognize a great artist, is how does the skin look. If it's blotchy too much, sometimes it shifts with the skincare. Also, skincare, great one to invest in. And then all of the color stuff you can do with inexpensive stuff as well. Okay, let me see. Hi Philippines and hi Switzerland. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me see. Instagram also has a feature to mute accounts, so you can still follow them, but you can manage to see your favorite artist that you want to learn from. That is a definite go. But then if you don't really want to see that content, why not just unfollow? Yeah. My opinion. But it's definitely true. Let me see. Your replies are so insightful. I'm trying. Let me see. We've got a Dutch question. I'm going to try to translate it. Hi, Celine. Were there any roadblocks when you just started in the industry, or maybe still? And were there things you didn't like? Thanks. And then a sexy face emoji. Obviously, there are always roadblocks and always obstacles when you start out in this industry, because I think one of the biggest things you need to learn, and nobody really teaches you, is set etiquette. That is such a major part of the fashion industry, and you can make or break your career with the wrong set etiquette. So, one of my roadblocks, obstacles was that I always get extremely nervous for each and every shoot, which can impair your creative abilities. So trying to make sure you go into a shoot well prepared and relaxed. Now, there is never a good reason not to introduce yourself to everyone and to listen to each and everyone's opinions. Now, as a makeup artist, you'll probably end up right at the bottom of the hierarchy within a shoot. Because if you're not doing a beauty shoot, you're probably one of the least important people on set. Doing a fashion story means that the photographer is number one together with the stylist. Then there's sometimes also someone who is an art director on set, and they kind of define and determine what you have to do. So there's not much of a creative input from the makeup artist's point of view or from the hairstylist's point of view. That is those are those kind of moments where you have to learn to shut the fuck up. Sorry to have to put it that way, but you have to learn when to speak and when to be silent. And obviously, your opinion is important, but sometimes it's just less important than other times. Then I had this one instance. Let's tell you guys a fucked up story. So I was assisting for a shoot for Tommy Hilfiger, and I was assisting one of my fellow artists from House of Orange agency. And I hope he doesn't mind that I'm going to tell you guys this story, because I think it was one of my biggest learning experiences within my short-lived career. I was way too vocal. I was way too chatty with the client, and I was an assistant, so pay attention, I was an assistant, which also means is that you have to tone down your character, your exuberance, your excitement about being able to do that shoot. And sometimes also your artist, the one that you are assisting, wants you to stay back and wait for, sometimes people want to give you an assignment and then you perform it. And some artists want you to be very proactive about things, but you have to know who you are assisting at that time. And sometimes keeping your mouth shut is the best way to go until you know a little bit more about the artist, what he or she wants, how they want you to act on set, and what kind of assistant they prefer. So at the end of this shoot, where I was way too vocal and way too chatty and whatever, I didn't even realize at that point that he was annoyed. But he told my agency, I don't want to have Celine on set anymore because she's way too out there. Because you have to realize it's not your assignment at that moment. It is someone else's. And you are there to assist that artist to do the best job possible. And you don't want to look like you are trying to poach a client and you don't want to look like you are trying to put yourself forward, like, hi, here I am, look at me, I can do makeup too. That's a no-go. So I think someone needs to write a book on set etiquette. One of the podcasts that I really love to listen to is the one by Lottie and oh, this is horrible, I forgot her name, but We Speak Beauty. Check them out on Instagram because that is like set etiquette school. So I hope they'll put it into something a little bit more formal, like a book or something, because that is just so much knowledge into 1 hour talks. So if you're cleaning your house and you want to be an editorial makeup artist, start listening to We Speak Beauty because it's everyone's experiences combined. And I think it's such an amazing podcast to listen to. And there are so many mistakes that you're guarded from just by listening to their podcast about assisting. They've got 2 parts of assisting. And then they've got 2 1 hour podcasts about runway, which is also assisting. So please listen to those if you... God, I talk a lot. I'm very sorry. I should be able to give shorter answers, but there's so much involved. Oh, let me see. Hello, South Africa. What do you think of hydration, and when do you think is the appropriate time to know, like, okay, this is enough moisture, you know? So we've got a lot of dewy makeup artists on Instagram right now, which is great. I think it's a very nice counterpart to all of the full matte foundations. But sometimes, you know, it's not, in my opinion, let's just specify that. From my opinion, it is not your goal for your model to look like a donut. Because it might work with a filter, it might work with Facetune, but the moment that model hits set and the flash bulbs start going off, she looks like she has run 10 miles, she's sweating all over, and it just doesn't look beautiful. So what I do recommend is applying your moisture onto the spots, your moisturizer onto the spots where you want that glow to be a little bit more pronounced. So the cheekbones, the temples, maybe the bridge of the nose a little bit, and around the chin. That could be nice to start there. But what we have been seeing with that donut glow on Instagram and on social media, it just doesn't work if you don't put a face filter on top of it. Have you ever had to work with a client or model with bad skin or is having a bad skin day? Do you use a different approach or do you do anything differently? A lot of the time. You'll probably notice if you start working during Fashion Week, for example, and you start assisting during the shows, those girls are probably doing a month-long trip to New York, Paris, Milan, New York, London, Paris, and Milan. Thank you. Yeah. So they've got this month-long trip ahead of them, and most of them are hitting all of those countries. And you have to imagine, by the time you get to Paris, which is normally the last one, they've had quite a bit of torture. Going from show to show, having makeup applied, having makeup removed, having makeup applied, having makeup removed. So by the time they get to Paris, they're just breaking out. It's lack of sleep, it's traveling, it's everything. So even if they normally have the most pristine skin, it's going to look bad by the time they get to Paris. So yes, definitely. Now, my approach to this is, if I see any flakes or any kind of crustiness going on, then I'll usually grab a salicylic acid. So my preferred one is the Paula's Choice 2% BHA liquid. And that is amazing to use on set to get rid of any patchiness, any flakiness, any dry, just crunchiness. So I do that. Afterwards, I moisturize really, really well. And I let them sit for a little bit so that their skin can soak up all of the moisture before we start applying skincare. Because also, after applying your skincare, 9 times out of 10, they're going to look a little red because you've touched their face, you've given them a little bit of a face massage, which I definitely recommend. It really helps with plumpness. So you've massaged their skin, they look a little bit red, and then you go in with foundation straight away and you start thinking, oh my gosh, it's so red, I'm going to need to use more. And you're going to apply more and more and more. And then you're going to go in with the concealer, and the more you touch that face and that skin, the more it's going to look like it's red and annoyed. So definitely letting them sit for a couple of minutes to have their skincare absorbed into the skin, have their face calm down, and then gently with a nice fluffy blender brush, you go in with spot concealing before doing anything else. Also with fashion, 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to use a lot of foundation. You're probably just going to be going in with skincare and a good concealer. So think about that before you start smacking on makeup. Oh, someone's coming in. All right, next question. Do you sometimes wear full-blown editorial makeup on a daily basis? Yes. Could you please introduce more videos of makeup? I'm trying my best to make as much content as I can, which is kind of difficult because I spend a lot of time on editing and on shooting, and I am a definite perfectionist. So if I shoot a video, then I'm probably going to spend an entire day on an edit, and that also goes for the 60-second edits on Instagram. So I'm going to try to be live a little bit more because that doesn't require any editing, so that I can do a little bit more videos on here. And yes, I do wear full-blown editorial makeup on a daily basis because 9 times out of 10 I'm here. What do you think about the creative muas on Instagram and Twitter? Is it your thing or not? Will we ever get to see a creative artsy side of Celine in terms of makeup? Well, it depends on what you specify as creative makeup, because I feel like I am very creative when it comes to makeup. I don't do just beauty makeup on my Instagram. But sometimes people see creative makeup as having, if I would wear this top, this dress, then I'd have to paint all of these vines over my face, and that would be seen as creative makeup. Not in my world, because it doesn't match my taste level, so I don't think I'll be doing those kinds of makeup. You're probably also never going to see them in magazines either. Unless it's like I don't know. You should check out Be Sweet Makeup on Instagram. She does like really, really incredible creative makeup, and I think it will redefine what you see as creative or not. Whew. Okay, I'm thinking about buying a camera for taking back but oh shit. There went your... I'm thinking about buying a camera for taking better pictures for makeup. Which one would you recommend me to start with? In a budget, please. So one of the cameras I started with was a Canon PowerShot G7 Mark II, I think. Yeah, G7 Mark II, which is a very handy pocket camera, but you can film with it. It has amazing quality, it shoots in full HD, and the pictures are really nice and handy. It connects to your phone. But then also Sony, I transferred to Sony now because I absolutely love my camera. And they also just launched a kind of a vlogging camera that can do pictures and videos. And I think that the video quality of Sony is on top at the moment. So I would look at that one. Hi Celine. I've always wanted to work in YSL or any big makeup or fashion brands. I badly need tips on how to apply. What qualities and experiences are they looking for? So Phil, I want to know, do you want to work for them on social media, or do you want to work for them for shows or in store? Or there's so many different possibilities in working for a bigger brand. What is the cheapest makeup related thing you have in your kit? I think this, the RCMA no color powder, because it works on white skin, it works on black skin, and it mattifies like nothing else. So sometimes, usually I have blotting powder by MAC in my kit, and 9 times out of 10 that'll be enough to get rid of the intenser glows. But then sometimes someone just keeps on producing oils and they'll stay shiny and everything. So I go in with that one because it really mattifies, and then I can go into the sweaty areas like right here or along the mouth area or right here on the forehead, just to get rid of that major glow. How do you plan your looks? Do you get inspired by a piece of clothing or by the shades that are in front of you? Well, for me personally, especially here in my own studio, I usually pick an outfit and then I try to work a makeup around that, or I get in a new palette and then I'll match my clothing to it. So it's either the product that I've got in front of me and then I'll match my background and my wardrobe to it, or it is a piece of clothing that can inspire me to do something different with my makeup. So I think everything kind of inspires me to do something different in this space. And then when it comes to editorial makeup, obviously styling is key for how the image is shot. Because magazines, let's be honest, they're trying to sell you clothes. They're trying to sell you makeup products. They're trying to sell you hair care. They are trying to sell you nail polish. So it starts off with the clothing piece, and then, or it starts off with a mood board, and then they'll try to work the styling around that, and it really depends on what you're doing. But usually clothing is key in how you do a shoot. So I kind of took it from set to what I do here now. Let me see. Have you watched Glow Up on Netflix? Ding dong darling. Yes, of course I have. I mean, there's not a show where there's makeup involved that I can skip. How to stop under eyes from creasing if you haven't used powder? So that is an interesting question. What I'll usually do is you have to look for a self-setting concealer first of all, because you don't want something to stay, you want to go for a liquid concealer probably and not a creamy one, or something that is right in between. So for example, Dior Forever Skin Correct, this one, that is not particularly self-setting and it is really beautiful and creamy. But what you want to look for is that, no, the RCMA powder does not flash back on set. But you've got a little Q-tip, right? So what you do with a liquid or a self-setting concealer is that you let it settle for a while. Let it do its thing. Don't try to brush it up, touch it up, or anything else. And you wait until it creases right into the fold of your eye. Then, when you look up, you'll see it, that little crease, where there's a slight buildup of makeup. Take a Q-tip, remove that crease part, and you'll be good to go for the rest of the day. And it won't crease again. So I think that's probably the best way to do it if you're not going to wear any powder. Okay, so now that my questions are gone, I want to talk a little bit about what I've done after I did House of Orange Makeup School, because I also did a masterclass, and this one is called the New Chic Masterclass in Amsterdam as well. So it is an in-depth course on how to fine-tune your creative abilities for beauty shoots, for example. So it is taught by 2 Dutch women called Lieselot van Saarloos and Anita Jolles. And they have been working in the fashion industry and abroad a lot for the past 20 years probably. So they're quite experienced, they're quite knowledgeable, and they are very creative in how they do their makeup. So on the one hand, Lieselot is much more of a graphic artist. She is one of the best at doing very tight lines. And then you've got Anita, who's actually schooled as a classic artist who used to paint on canvas. And she is just incredible at transforming an entire face into a painting or just an incredible artwork full of color, and she's much more expressionistic with her style. So I did a masterclass with them for 5 days, in which we talked about all of the trends for the upcoming season, in which we did the guest course from Miss Envy Peru, where she taught us how to do drag makeup. We got a shit ton of homework again, and we did an end shoot, and it was specifically formed to do more creative and more editorial makeup. So, if anybody has any questions about that, then please let me know. Tell us something about makeup that you think nobody knows and need to know right now. There's this one quote from my teacher that just pops into my head, and that is, "It's only makeup." So obviously makeup is my entire life, my entire livelihood, my entire brain waves, everything. So for me, sometimes makeup can feel way too important, and it can stress me out, and it can mess me up on set. But if you remember, it's only makeup. You can take it off if it goes wrong. You'll be able to settle a little bit. And I don't know if everybody realizes that, you don't have to do everything perfectly straight away. You can readjust. If I'm doing graphic eyeliner, I really have to retouch a lot of it with Q-tips and makeup remover to make sure that it's absolutely symmetrical. But I think we put a little bit too much pressure on ourselves because, again, social media, if we see the videos, everything goes like that and everything goes perfectly, but you don't know what happened behind the scenes, and you don't know what happened beforehand and how much retouching was done. So it's kind of nice to stop the pressure with the thought, it's only makeup. Yeah. Why did they teach you to do drag makeup? Well, good question. It is the exaggeration of everything. If you can do drag, you can do anything, in my opinion, because you learn how to contour, how to do very full makeup base, how to feminize the eyes, how to overline lips, how to block the eyebrows, how to create a completely different character. And if you're able to do that extreme version of everything, the 1000% of it, it's much easier to go from 1000% to 25 instead of being taught how to do 25% and then going to 1000. So there are instances, if you're doing an 80 shoot, for example, then there are instances where you go in with a lot more makeup and a lot more color and a lot more shaping, and you want to know how to be able to do that. And drag makeup does have an amazing foundation for all of these things that you want to be able to do. Think about blush placement. If you put it a little bit more on the apples of your cheek, you look a lot more cuter. If you put it a little bit more back, it's going to have a much more editorial vibe to it. So if you can do drag, you can do anything. And drag is one of the most difficult processes of doing makeup out of everything. So definitely take a look at RuPaul's Drag Race and take a look at the Get Ready With Me drag queen artists on social media, because if you know how to do that, you'll be able to tone it down into a very light version. How to prevent sweating while we're shooting an editorial makeup. Do you mean as an artist or for the model? Because that's quite a big difference. When you look at a magazine or stumble upon an image, do you instantly say with yourself, oh, he or she used this or that is this technique, etc.? Sort of analyze it, if you will. Or sometimes, yes, if I really like the imagery, I'll kind of dissect and try to see what kind of pigment they might have used or what kind of paint they might have used, because I might be thinking of a different type of makeup where that kind of pigment would be useful. But obviously you're never going to be able to recognize the brand and foundation of things. No, you'll never be able to pinpoint something absolutely exactly, because there's such an overload of cosmetics on the market right now that, you know, maybe 20 years ago you'd be able to recognize Ruby Woo in every imagery that had used that lipstick, or a Chanel kind of specific color. But I think with the amount of makeup that we've got nowadays, it's quite difficult to define which product was used. What's your personal favorite era for makeup and why? Well, probably the 60s and 70s. Like late 60s, early 70s, the Twiggy, the Sophia Loren, Brigitte Bardot. That's also a little bit early, but 60s, definitely. I love a really good 60s crease and thick, chunky lashes, and it was quite bold makeup. And you know, if you look at the different eras, I think only the 80s has such a specific bold look, but then I do prefer the 60s, 70s kind of vibe. I don't really like the overly used blush and overly used eyeshadow colors and everything. So yeah, 60s probably. I have to be honest, I also like the Roaring 20s, and the Hollywood stars in the 40s, 50s was also amazing. So, but if I had to pick a favorite, I think 60s. Let me see, did you answer my question? For the model, well, you can't really stop it. You can't really stop a model from sweating because it is a really hard job. A lot of people might be thinking that it's quite easy to be a model, but it's one of the most physically straining jobs you can have. And especially if you're doing commercial, for example, and they want you to do that little leap, that is straining on the legs, on the whole body, and you cannot really prevent a model from sweating. What you can do is give them a little bit of a windy thing. Always have tissues on hand so you can dab away the sweatiness. Blotting paper so you can dab away the oil production, because those are two different things. And then have a blotting powder, because a blotting powder will soak up those oils a little bit better than just a normal powder. Oh, I've been talking a little bit too much. Okay. Do you use primarily concealer or eye primer on the lid? What works better for a bright neon eyeshadow? PS, especially how to achieve the faultless bright yellow color. Okay, so if you want to go for really bright colors, I usually go in with a cream pigment and then with a shadow. Because that will pack on such an incredible intensity. And I probably won't even prime the eyelids. I'll just use a skin protector. So I usually go in with Derma Shield, which is a skin protectant. So you put a little layer of this stuff on the lids, and then you can protect the skin from any pigment seeping in and staining the skin. And then I'll probably go in with a cream base. So for example, Danessa Myricks has an amazing cream pigments. I really love the Pixem, anything that is super, super bright. Kryolan Super Color. I try not to work with waterproof eyeshadow colors or paints, because it's probably only going to be photographed for one photo and then you have to take it off and redo something else. So you want to be kind to the model and make sure you don't rub her skin raw, because you've been using waterproof makeup. So I'll probably go in with a Kryolan Supra Color or an Aqua Color and then pack pigment on top of that. And that will create an incredible brightness. Now, if you want to use it for yourself, probably go for the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow primer, because if you want to wear it for an entire day, it's probably going to work a little bit better with the Anastasia primer. Hi again, can I, without education, approach a makeup artist for an assistant position? How do you, what chance do I have? and which way would be the best. So, in all honesty, it's probably going to be difficult. If you don't have a portfolio to showcase what you can do, it's probably going to be very difficult to get an assistant's position anywhere, because I think that the mistake that a lot of people make is assuming that assisting someone is like free makeup school, and that the artist is going to have all the time in the world to teach you how to do makeup. That is absolutely not the case. You as an assistant are there to take the weight off the shoulders from the artist and help them do the best job possible. But that also means that if she tells you, or he, do her lipstick and make sure it's like razor sharp. If you cannot do an editorial lip and you go in with an Instagram lip that is overdrawn and everything, you're a waste of space at that moment. And I know that sounds really harsh, but if you don't know how to do the basics, what is the use of you being there on set with the artist if you're not going to help them out, but you're just going to be an extra weight on the shoulders of the artist? So that doesn't mean you have to have formal training to be able to assist. It does mean that you have to have a portfolio in which you showcase at least the basics. And please don't start doing a lot of photography where you Photoshop the shit out of it, because that is misrepresentation of your abilities. So please start working on the essentials. You have to know how to do a really nice editorial eyeliner. You have to know how to apply mascara with disposable wands. Your kit has to be in order. You have to know how to do a really nice lip, and you have to know how to do skin basics and a brow. Very important. If you can showcase that you've nailed all of those basic skills, then you might be able to approach an artist. And personally, I would contact the agency, not the artist directly. Yeah, that would be my best guess, especially in Holland, because it was a Dutchie who asked. Send your portfolio to all of the largest agencies, like House of Orange, like NCL, like Erik Elenbaas, Angelique Horan, all those kind of agencies. Start sending your portfolio and ask if there's a possibility of assisting, and also make sure in everything you do, be very proper spoken. Make sure they've got your contact information, and make sure that they know your availability. So it can be that maybe the night before at 12 at midnight, you're going to get a call. Can you do this tomorrow? Make sure to say yes, whatever the case is. Oh, I don't know how long I've been live for quite a bit. So I'm going to do 2 more questions, and maybe we can do another one of these lives a little bit sooner, where we do a little bit of a Q&A. But we can save that for the next time. Okay. So with a small portfolio, how can you get an assistant position? Well, again, I won't count this question. Again, make sure that you send it to the agencies. Don't contact the artist directly, but contact the agency of the artist and tell them who you're interested to work with, who you want to assist, and make sure that they can see your portfolio clearly. So if it's an online website or if it is a PDF, make sure it is attached to the email. If your PDF is too large, go to smallpdf.com so that you can create a very small file size. Tips for starting a makeup portfolio. Contact starting photographers. So see if there's an art school around you, or if there are Facebook groups or Instagram groups where people are looking for makeup artists or stylists or something, create your own little community and start building a portfolio. So you could, for example, contact a photographer and tell them you're available if they want to do a test shoot. So start out with something easy. Start out with beautiful skin, and create a portfolio together. And then at some point you can ask, like, I would really like to do a beauty shoot where I could showcase my skill set. Are you interested in shooting that together? And are you interested in doing a beauty shoot? And from there you can start developing a portfolio, and you can just start developing your own network of people that you would really like to work with, and be bold about it. Contact photographers, like, I would love to shoot with you. But if you are starting out, try to find people who are on your level. So don't go ahead and I don't know, contact the largest photographer in your country, because they're probably going to delete your message and never look at you again. And you'll kind of kill your own chances. So try to, if you're starting out, look for photographers who are starting out and stylists who are starting out, and build a portfolio together, because there's something in it for all of you. How do you match colors in your makeup looks? Not just monochromatic looks, but other combinations. Again, I think I'll have to refer back to developing your taste level and see what you like. Because if I like the combination orange and pink, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to like it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't go together, but it does mean that it's more prone for people to criticize it because it's not a common color combination or something. I think you have to try things out. A lot of things within the makeup industry and for a makeup artist is just try things out on yourself. So if you're not entirely sure if you want to combine lime green and purple together, which is amazing, by the way, but if you're not sure if it's going to work well on the model, sit down, smash it onto your own eyes. Even if it's not completely practiced and pristine, you can take a look at it and see if the color combination works for you or not. And by trying it out time after time, then you'll be able to start building your taste level and building your sense of color, and practice, practice, practice. Put your mom on a chair and tell her you want to do her makeup. Nobody's going to mind. All right, lovelies. I think I'm going to end the live somewhere around here. We've been talking for over an hour. Let me know in the comment section if you want to have a part 2 of this, and if we maybe should be talking a little bit more about how to build a good kit, especially if you're starting out. Then let me know in the comment section, or if you have more questions about assisting, then please do. For now, if you really want to know more, then I'm going to send you over to the We Speak Beauty podcast, and I would recommend you listen to that podcast first, because there's so much information in that podcast. It's incredible. But I can imagine it's quite nice to be able to have a conversation and have your very specific question answered. So let me know if you want to have a part 2. For now, thank you so much for watching, for joining me here on this live. And let's do it again soon. Oh, by the way, final thing before you leave. I see people leaving already. I can imagine. It's been a long one. Today is the last day of my giveaway. So in my previous YouTube video, I've got this incredible giveaway, and I think it is especially exciting for starting makeup artists, because it can definitely transform your kit, and it can definitely transform what you are able to create on set. And that is this beautiful box, this box full of 20 colors of Depixum cosmetic emulsion. And today is the final day where you can enter the giveaway. So please make sure to go to my previous video, the one with the drugstore thingies, and enter there, because tomorrow we are picking a winner. So make sure to head on over to there if you want to win that beautiful box. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a lovely evening or a lovely day. Bye-bye.